Welcome to the Ripple Effect Martial Arts Podcast.
Okay, thank you guys so much for joining us. We're here today with Master Macy, myself, Miss Emily Fox, and Mrs. Nicole Sturka, who are the prep cycle coordinators in Florida and Colorado. So this is pretty exciting. Thank you guys.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, so I kind of want to start, I think, you guys volunteered your time to be here this morning, but you guys volunteer a lot of time to give back to our students and our families. And I wouldn't say it's a thankless job. I think our kids really do appreciate the help that they get after they get through the black belt test. They know, how much support that you've provided them and how much of a role you're playing in them getting there. But at the end of the day, it still is a big sacrifice. It shows a lot of commitment to what we do, to martial arts, to servant leadership. So I just want to start by really saying thank you, and to really let you guys know that myself, Master Macy, and the whole Ripple Effect team, we definitely don't say it enough, but we really see everything that you guys are doing and really do greatly appreciate that. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I'd probably be really good for our listeners too to understand a little bit about what prep cycle is all about and kind of where it came from and kind of just the vision of what prep cycle really is. And it's been around we've been now doing prep cycles for at least 12 years. And so that's a pretty big accomplishment just in itself. And it's definitely evolved, and I think we've been learning how to make it better. And so I want to kind of just start by explaining a little bit about the vision of prep cycle and what it really is. And so it stands for preparation cycle, and it's basically to help get our students ready for the black belt test, but not just the test. It's actually designed to not only get them mentally and physically ready for a very vigorous black belt test, but it's also meant to build them into a team and create this teamwork. And, a lot of times people think martial arts is to a very individual sport, or, you get out there and you do it yourself. And it actually evolves as they get closer and closer to black belt into something that is really based around teamwork and helping each other and creating a bond amongst the students. And so that's kind of the overall I guess the number one objective of prep cycle is to create a team and a bond that all of the students are focused on black belt and helping each other to get there. So I'd like we'll start with Miss Fox. I'd like you to kind of just talk a little bit about what are some of the things that you see, especially as they start in prep cycle and as they evolve and kind of get through the cycle. What are some of the things that you do and that creates that team and that bond?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the big things that I like to do in our prep cycles is I like to try to involve some kind of team building skill or activity into each of the prep cycles. Usually it's near the end of practice, as long as they've worked really hard and they've kind of earned it. And just different things. One of my favorites is we'll divide the group into teams of 8 to 10 students, and I give them an 8-foot by 8-foot blanket, and we lay it on the mat, and all of their team stands on the mat, and they are then as a team required to turn the blanket over as they're standing on it. They're not allowed to step off, they can't use their hands, and they need to work together as a team to figure out a way to get the blanket turned over without stepping off the mat. And it just gives them a way to kind of connect, a way for them to learn how to communicate as a team and how to advocate for themselves and let their team know what they need. Those types of things I think are key in bringing the fun into building the team. And then we really, after that point, after they've had the fun and kind of get to build the team that way, then we drill in how much they are responsible for each other. It's not just that they're responsible for themselves. If one person is off, the whole team is off. If one person is late, the whole team is late. you're responsible for your teammates and they are responsible for you. And that kind of then cements that feeling of teamwork and feeling that it's not just my own journey now. Now I have an entire team that I need to help support in their individual journeys. And I think that that's a big key in being able to make them feel safe and good and knowing that their teammates will always have their backs and be there to support them.
I love that. I love that idea. I think that was, I just learned that. And so that's a takeaway for us, something I want to implement for sure with our prep cycle guys in Florida. Mrs. Fox, what would you say, like, because I think that teamwork is huge and you see it on their black belt test, it carries them through the weekend, like that level of camaraderie. We all know what purpose, anyone who's been through a black belt test weekend knows what purpose having a community and a family and a team really does for that weekend. What would you say that level of teamwork and level of responsibility does for them beyond black belt and beyond martial arts and in other areas of life?
I think it does a lot. I mean, we have students of all age ranges, right? From 9-year-olds all the way up through adults. So, and it's able to carry over into each of those individual teams, right? The kids take it to school and they understand how to be a better friend and be supportive and empathetic of their friends at school, or maybe kids that don't have friends at school. So it allows them to look outside their own bubble for a moment and realize what else is going on around them and how what they do impacts what's going on around them, which I think is huge. And, you know, and as an adult going through prep cycle, it's the same thing. During my own prep cycles, I was one of the very few adults on the team. And so being able to know that, yes, I'm the oldest, but I don't have to lead all of the time. I can allow the younger people on the team, they can support me just as much as I can support them. Being able to let go of the control for a moment and know that I'm not going to falter because my team has my back was huge. And I think that that's a huge takeaway from prep cycle for students to take outside.
I love that. I'm going to kind of take that on a tangent for a second, because I think that's something that, although a lot of the people listening to this are not moms, but that's definitely a mom trait, right? We tend to think everywhere we go, we have to take the lead, take care of everybody, and kind of bear that weight on our shoulders. And so that's a huge feeling to know that yeah, you might take that on one day and then you have a team to lean on the next day when you're struggling or things like that. So I love that. I think that's amazing in all areas of martial arts. I know for me, my entire life, that's been a resource, is having that community and that family. Everybody needs that for different reasons. So I love that. All right, Mrs. Sturka, what about you? I'm gonna kind of rephrase Master Macy's question and ask, what value do you think prep cycle provides, or what are some things that you're doing with prep cycle? This prep cycle, we're in the midst of it. We just finished the mid-cycle test, so yeah.
Yeah, especially in the beginning, I think a lot of people thought they were doing the correct techniques and the things that they're doing. Obviously, when you're in your individual weekly classes, we give as much feedback as we can. But when you're getting ready for black belt, we will drill and drill some more, and to make sure that everybody is, like Ms. Fox said, you're a team and you're together and we help each other out. And if one person falls, we all fall, and we all support each other as well. I do think the teaching aspect, though, increases as well with our SWAT members. You see a big difference in confidence. They already had this confidence, but once they're in the prep cycle, it seems like a switch gets flipped. So they kind of understand where we're coming from, being strict and making sure that they have the techniques, and then that in turn goes into their class that they teach, and the kids can see the difference. I mean, I've had students and parents come up to me while the prep cycle students are teaching, and they just can't believe how much they've improved or how much more confidence that they have, being more vocal, more in charge. So it definitely helps a lot in the discipline and the teaching aspect.
Yeah, you know, and I think that that's such an important part of that servant leadership, and watching the kids transform, and the adults, especially the adults, transform during the cycle and during the prep cycle period. Because, you know, when you look at the math of their training, you know, they're training for years before they get into prep cycle, and then all of a sudden the prep cycle classes intensify, you know, 10 times tenfold what they're used to. And so watching them overcome, number one, the challenges and the mental toughness that they're developing in prep cycle is such a big thing. What would you say, Mr. Durka, to the parents, and especially the moms and dads that are looking at when they hear, wow, this is a 3-hour class, or the black belt test is this, when they get into prep cycle, sometimes there is that doubt, and that protection mechanism comes out in parents. And we try to tell them, trust the process. We've done this a lot of times, but what advice, especially coming from a parent and seeing it through that lens, could you give to the parents out there that everything's going to be okay, and we've got this?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps the parents understand that I've been through it as a parent and a student. So I can give them both aspects of it. And one of the first things we said in a very first prep cycle meeting is, parents, you need to take a step away a little bit, because it's your child's journey to black belt. So we want to make sure that they are responsible for the things that are due each week. And you're there to encourage them, because there are going to be ups and downs. There's going to be some times where they just want to say, I quit. My oldest did the same thing. Like, the paperwork was hard. She never wrote an essay before. She's never studied for a test before like we do. So it was hard for a 10-year-old. But you just encouraged her. And a couple of times in the beginning, I was like, all right, well, we don't have to do it right now, but let's continue with the paperwork. So if you, in 6 months, then all you have to do is focus on your physical stuff. And then as you progress and you keep the encouragement, they finally get through it. And sometimes you just have to take, all right, we're going to take a break and we'll come back to it. So you have to know that balance. And that's the type of things that I discuss with the parents. And I have had parents come to me throughout the testing cycle and just say, this so-and-so is struggling with this aspect. What can we do? And then we try and set up a plan for them that they can easily follow to build back the encouragement, and making sure that they feel supported, not just by the parent, because of course it's mom or it's dad. I don't want to listen to them. So when it comes from somebody else, it's definitely easier. So we try and give those points throughout the prep cycle as well.
Awesome. Well, and I think you've done an amazing job with not only your team and watching them, because we're as parents now watching one of our own go through your prep cycle and seeing that transformation. And Miss Teagan is really, I think at the beginning, like you said, when they first start, they hate it. And it's kind of fun to watch that, because I've seen it. Like, the kids literally at the beginning, that's one of the things I tell the parents, like, don't worry if your kid wants to quit and they want to completely never do karate again after the first couple prep cycles. It's very normal. And by the end of the cycle, though, it's amazing to see how much they actually enjoy it. And it's like they enjoy those extra long, hard workouts with all that pain and all the pushing through and overcoming things. And when they look back after the fact, seeing how much they've grown and that level of accomplishment. And I think for Miss Fox, I'd like you to talk a little bit about we have this extra piece of the prep cycle. There's a lot of different homework assignments and different pieces whether it's writing essays or whatnot, but we implement a hero project, and this hero project is really getting them to think not about themselves, but the development of others and that servant leadership. And so they find a student in the school that they want to work one-on-one with, and they get to handheld walk them through their journey, and depends on where they at. Some of the students will pick like a white belt or a beginner student. Some students will pick a more advanced student. But what do you see in that process that you can really maybe speak to how the parents are going to be proud of what they see of that in that process?
Yeah, the hero project, I think, is one of the most amazing things about prep cycle, and it really allows the students to, again, take ownership of, you see one, do one, teach one, right? So now they are teaching one, and they get to take ownership of being able to help a student learn or solidify a curriculum to be able to pass their next test to earn their next rank. And knowing that they've helped a student do that gives them a real sense of pride and ownership over, these new skills that they have, which I think is amazing. The hero project, doing my hero project really got me thinking about, I really like being able to help individuals move up in rank and be able to feel confident in what they're doing, and be able to learn the curriculum and learn the technique that they need in order to advance. And that got me thinking about prep cycle, which is how I ended up where I'm at right now. So the Hero Project for me really led to that. And I think that it's a huge thing for the students to be able to take away that sense of responsibility, and ownership to be able to teach others.
Yeah, that is awesome. And Ms. Sturka, to speak to another kind of piece or project that is required for the black belt test in the prep cycle is they have a community service project, and they're tasked with going out and finding something in the community that speaks to their heart and something that they want to help with. And we have a range of people that donate time at animal shelters to functions at their churches to all kinds of different things. And for me, that's probably the thing I'm most proud of when I go to a black belt test weekend and I get to see their presentation on what they did. Of course, the kicking and punching and all the mental toughness that they're developing makes me proud. But I think this is the piece where brings tears to my eyes when I see how much they're doing it for the communities. What do you think that, as far as that project go, what kind of recommendations or what kind of advice could you give the students that would help prepare them, or at least get them in the right mindset for these community service projects?
I definitely think they should pick something that they love or care about themselves. You mentioned the animals, and that's a really big one, I think, around here. We have a couple shelters that are close to either studio. And so they'll go to the shelter, talk to the person in charge, and ask them, what exactly do you need? And then I'm sure when they go in, they're thinking, oh, it's just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And then when they come back to us, there's a whole list of stuff that they need to do, or they're asking for volunteers to help with donations. So it gives them a reality check that, when you are helping out with the community, it may not always be that easy. Sometimes you're going to find a place that is really struggling. I worked with Mercy, and we gathered items for anybody that was misplaced or just needed some help. And we really got the community involved with using the apps next door and Facebook and making a wish list to get those items delivered to our house, so that we could pack everything for them and have our community help pack up the bags and things to provide for Mercy. And they were so thankful and so surprised. And that's when my three daughters really kind of got their first glimpse of a reality check when it comes to this. And I think that's really important, because a lot of people, you have 10-year-olds, as young as 10-year-olds that are in the prep cycle, and they may never have had the opportunity to do community service. So it's a great way for them to understand how and why it's important for us to do these small projects and continue to do them whether they're required or not.
Yeah, well, and I go back to just saying thank you, because the amount of, the leadership, you guys really truly are leading by example, because, watching these students do these projects and the guidance and everything that you give them. And then you get to see that a lot of times they continue on with these projects. It's something that's not, it becomes part of their life, and they do it because they want to. It's not a requirement to black belt anymore. It's just something that they really fell in love with. And so that leadership and that servant leadership continues to grow and cultivate in these students. And that's really one of my favorite things. Now, at the end of prep cycle, they test for their black belt and they pass, and then they all get together, and they normally kind of come together and they customary give you a gift. And I know that's not what you guys do it for. And, the appreciation and that the students give you is just a small token from the amount that that you guys give them. But, I guess I want to know a little bit more about your motivation to do something, because literally you put in hundreds of hours to donate your time and energy to get these kids ready for black belt and pull them together as a team, but what is the true motivating factor, Mrs. Fox? What really drives you?
So like I said, it kind of started with my Hero Project. I was working with a student, an adult female student, and continued that project through both of my cycles. So I worked with her for an entire year through all of her belt tests. And it just kind of gave me this sense of pride that I could help somebody else, that it wasn't just about me. I could help somebody else. It wasn't about my children and them as students and their journeys. It was really about giving back to the community in a way that I hadn't known was possible before. And myself, after black belt, I'm still continuing on to second degree, but my journey is a little bit slower. I'm getting a little bit older, so my body doesn't like it as much. And prep cycle really gave me a way to still feel involved. And I honestly take away more from that than I do continuing on my own. Going to a test and earning my own rank is great, but being able to watch my students feel the pride in earning their rank and knowing that they've earned it throughout prep cycle is gives me more in my soul than anything else has. So that's kind of really been my motivating factor, is really just helping others get to the point that I never thought I'd be able to get to and did. So letting them know that you are capable, and sometimes more capable than you think you are, is really what drives me.
How about for you, Ms. Sturka, what is your motivator?
My background is competitive coaching in softball, a competitive dance instructor. And then I was also in upper level management for a very long time. I believe over 15 years. And I was a management coach where we took on potential managers, and there were either 6-week training weeks or 3-month training weeks, depending on what type of supervisor or manager they were. And I was in charge of that in our district. And we had about 20 to 26 stores at that time. So they would always, they would send most of the trainees to me. And then we would go through it's like a prep cycle as well, where we have different things to do every week. And I was also a workshop facilitator. So this is my way of being able to get back to watching people grow and help them achieve their goals, which was my favorite thing, especially in the management side that I used to do. So that it's something that I love to do, and I would like to continue to do that. And this gives me that opportunity that I love.
I love it. I think that's another thing too with teaching, is it always elevates you as a martial artist in a different way, a way that you didn't realize. It's funny, like when you have an instructor who's teaching 4 or 5 days a week, maybe taking one class a week, they're still like elevating in their martial arts skills so much. And I just want to take a second to say that both of these women, they are sweet, they are kind, they are beautiful, but they can both kick some butt. They are tough cookies. What are both of your second degree testing dates? Because I think you guys might be pretty close on the same. What is your goal testing date for second degree?
So mine, I think, is November of 2026. Like I said, my journey is a little bit longer. I'm testing only once every 6 months. So it's just taking a little bit more time, which is okay. So I'll get there when I get there. But yeah, November 2026 is kind of the end goal right now.
That's a good message to send too, is black belt is different for every single person. So one of my favorite things about martial arts is you're not worrying about everybody else. It's, are you better than you were yesterday? And everyone's journey is different. I sat at red belt for a year when I was like 10 years old. It took me a long time to get my first degree. And you know what? I was very, very proud of my first degree test. And everyone's journey is different. So that's not, I don't even want to say that's not something to be ashamed of, because it's not. That is something that's just a part of martial arts. Everyone's journey is very different. And Ms. Sturka, you're getting pretty close to yours.
Yes. So mine was also delayed due to a head injury. I was off the mat for 8 months. And so I am hoping that in October of this year, I will be testing possibly with Caitlin. So we'll see, but that would be really cool.
Love that. That's her daughter, by the way. Okay, so I think I have one last question to wrap this up, unless Master Macy, if you have anything else. Okay, I'll ask you. All right. Really quick before we go, and we'll start with you, Mrs. Fox. What is one piece of advice you guys would give to somebody who's about to start their first prep cycle?
This is a good question. Because there's lots of pieces of advice, right? So I think the the main piece of advice is you have to come in with a positive mental attitude. That positive mental attitude is going to carry you through prep cycle, because I won't lie, it's hard. Some of these workouts are brutally hard. And going through myself, there were times that it's like, I don't know that I'm going to make it through this 1 hour workout. And then I've got 3 more hours of curriculum after this. But being able to almost lie to yourself, right? To be able to have a positive mindset, even when you're in pain, is the key to being able to be successful in prep cycle, is really just staying positive, knowing that you can do it. And like Master Macy said, trusting the process. Like, some of the things we ask them to do might seem kind of crazy, but in the end, they're working towards a way to get you to knowing that you're capable of achieving it.
I love that. That's great. Great advice. Do you think that prep cycle itself helps build a positive mindset?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because like I said, a lot of times some of these things are very difficult, and you get to the end and you're like, I didn't think I was going to be able to do that. I've asked all of my students when they get through their first black belt test, how many of you didn't think you were going to be able to get through, and you did? And every single one of them is going to raise their hands. So I think being able to keep that positivity and know that that will continue to grow, and then that builds confidence, which then builds success. So all of these things stack on top of each other.
That's huge. And Master Macy mentioned that our daughter, Miss Tegan, is going through prep cycle right now. And one of my, she had to call Master Macy after class one night because she got out of the car and told me this. She's like, I have to tell Padre this. So she was taking class, and her partner, who was about a year from black belt, that she was working with on some of her techniques. The instructor said, whoever is the last group done is going to do however many push-ups. And her partner looked at her and was like, oh no, that's going to be us. And she was like, stop, you can't have that mindset. We're going to be the first ones done. And it's funny, but it is one of the book reviews that Miss Sturka's going through with them, what to say when you talk to yourself, just all of that positive mindset. Like, as a parent, she's telling us this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, because we all know as adults how many areas in life that is going to serve such a big purpose, whether it's high school, whether it's college, whether it's friendships, whether it's relationships, whether it's parenting, whether it's a job, whatever she's doing, being able to shift her mindset like that is pretty amazing. And I agree. Prep cycle, I think, is an incredible place for that. All right, Ms. Sturka, what about you? What advice do you have for someone starting their first prep cycle?
Well, the first thing I tell the group is you all deserve to be here. You've worked really hard for how many years to be here at this point. And then I let them know it's going to be tough. And there's some points you're going to really love it. And there's some points it's going to be difficult. And you know what? You're not the only person that's going to have a hard time. And right now we have 16 people in our prep cycle. So you have 15 other people to lean on, plus myself, plus every black belt, that's in the studios. So if you need help, all you have to do is ask. And I think it's also helped. I've gotten a lot of good feedback with sending out the emails that we do every week as a recap of what's going on in the week and their homework and what's due the following week. And the parents are really appreciative of that, because we do have the kids take notes, but you know how that goes sometimes. So it's just, I want to try and build all the bridges that we can to keep everyone on the same page and keep it as positive as possible, but also know that we're here to help out at any time.
Thank you. Yeah. Great advice. Again, I think one of my, like, just in the whole process to black belt, one of my favorite things is knowing that so many of our students who've gotten to black belt and gone on to do other very difficult things have reflected back on it. And like, I've had students, previous students tell us, like, when they were in medical school and it got really, really tough, or when they were in the Naval Academy and it got really tough, their mindset went back to, if I could make it through my black belt test, I can make it through this. And so, yeah, it's not easy. If it were easy, every person on the street would have a black belt. It is not. It is, I think, as a standard, it's 3% of individuals who start martial arts get their black belt, something along those lines. So it's not easy. It is tough, and it is so worth every second and every drop of sweat and every tear that goes into it, or whatever it might be. And they do have so much fun and create so many memories along the way at the same time. So thank you guys both again so much for chatting with us today first, and for everything that you do for our students, for our families, and for all the future black belts in the pipeline.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day, guys.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to the Ripple Effect Martial Arts Podcast. Find podcasts and more at rippleeffectmartialarts.com.